Hey guys, how's it going? I apologize for the informality of this video. So I guess in this video I've just wanted to talk a little bit about everything I've done to my 2000 SAAB 9.5 since I've owned it. Keeping in mind that I have only owned the car for about 4 months and that I have really only driven it about 2,000 miles. I'm just going to kind of run through some of the basic things that I've done to improve the car overall and to make it run again. So I talk a little bit about the history of this car in my introduction video, about how my parents got it and how I ended up with the car. Currently I am living at home, so technically it's still their car. It's kind of the family run-around vehicle to say. But when I first got the car, the check engine light was on, and it would even flash when you would accelerate or drive it around too much. I think even the traction control system and ABS system lights were on as well when I started driving this in the winter time. So one of the first things that I did obviously was plug in my code reader. My code reader told me that this engine had a bad misfire, and I can't remember if it specified the cylinder or not. So after diagnosing the misfire, I did a little bit of research online, and I decided that it was most likely my DIC or my direct ignition coil pack. Since this engine has 4 cylinders and the coil pack is on one set, I figured I wouldn't have to spend too much time deciding which cylinder it was. Instead, I just bought a whole new coil pack to put in. I decided to also change my spark plugs with that coil pack in the hope that I could get everything running just a little bit better. After replacing my ignition coil pack, the car did begin to run smoothly with no misfires, and the check engine light never come back on. Shortly after, however, my check engine light did come back on. I plugged back in my code reader a second time to the car to figure out what it could possibly be. This time it was throwing an Evap system code. It said that I had a huge leak in my evaporative system. So I began to do some more research, and I come up with the culprit of a bad Evap purge canister. I bought one online used but working for like $16, and I went ahead and swapped that out. Since then, the check engine light has not come back on for this car. I have felt a little bit more power and a bit more comfortable driving it around. However, shortly after I replaced my evaporative purge canister, after about an hour of driving the car on the highway, I got into a neighboring city and the car stalled out. It wouldn't idle and it just died. So I thought, oh, my crankshaft position sensor is probably bad. So I went ahead and I bought a new one online. They're not very expensive. I think I spent like 20 bucks on that. And I went ahead and I swapped that out. Now, since I've done that, I haven't seen any improvement in the car. The car still seems to surge, and it still seems to have some issues upon acceleration, as well as I'm scared to drive it anywhere in the event that it will stall out, and it has stalled out with my new CPS. So I don't think that that was the culprit. I've continued looking for the culprit, but as of now I don't know why the car stalls out, and it continues to do it. And then kind of the last thing that I have actually changed or replaced on this car mechanically has been my coolant bypass valve. I've been able to smell a sweet smell here in the cab on deacceleration and braking, and knowing that the coolant bypass valves are a common problem with this particular car and model, I decided just to go ahead and replace it preventatively. Honestly, I do believe that it was going out, because since I've replaced that valve, I don't get that sweet smell. Something that I have done to the exterior of this car to improve its overall look, besides just regular wash and waxes, is that I replaced the SAAB-Scania logo or emblems on the front hood and the rear trunk. Now, honestly, this isn't a huge fix, or it's not very expensive, but I personally believe it makes the car look a lot better, even a little newer. Almost every SAAB that you see on the road, if they haven't had the badges replaced or if they have the factory badges, they're faded, they have no color in them, they're not really even there. So I think that makes this car somewhat unique, and that's something that I definitely would recommend to anyone with a SAAB. So besides the parts that I have replaced, this car has been involved in a rear-end collision, as most of you know, and my parents owned it for about 3 years before I did. I know that they put in a new throttle body to try and clean up. I know that they put in a new throttle body to try and get this car to stop surging. I know that they also fixed one of the windows. I believe its regulator or the window roller was bad, I'm not really sure. But I do know that the window rollers are a common problem with the SAABs. As well, I think most any car has trouble with their window rollers or regulators, so just watch out for that when you're buying one. And then in the rear end collision, they had to put a new taillight on. They also put kind of a new back panel there. You can see in some of my videos where I show the rear end that it has a small gray panel. I haven't got around to repainting that or to buffing out maybe the dent on top and repainting it either. So that still looks bad, but it doesn't affect the car mechanically in any way on the rear end. The only mechanical issues that this car does have are the ones that I've discussed in previous videos with the engine. Honestly, I've really loved driving this car. I wish that I could figure out the last few mechanical issues, because if I could, it would really run just amazingly. Oh, 80 miles an hour. I think that if I could figure out what makes the engine stall out, this would be a very reliable vehicle once again. If I were to keep this car, I would highly recommend getting the brake rotors redone, putting in new brake pads. Just some simple regular maintenance like that would go a long way with this car. The front shocks definitely need redone, and the rear struts and shocks wouldn't hurt to be redone either. And then of course after that, to have the car balanced and realigned. But other than that, it really does ride great. I think something that I would also do to this car if I were to keep it would be the PCV System update. These engines, specifically the 1999 to 2004 four-cylinder SAABs, are prone to engine sludge. The PCV System update kind of redoes where that sludge area occurs. If you were to put in a new PCV vent system there, it would cost about 60 bucks. I hear they're super easy to change. I've never done it personally, but if I were to keep this car, I definitely would do one. But as far as that goes, this is kind of my video for you guys of what I've done to the car, what I would do to the car if I were keeping it. But with that said, I've really enjoyed making videos on this car, almost as much as I've enjoyed driving it. If you guys have any questions for me, comments, go ahead and leave them below. And we'll catch you guys next time.
I don't believe in destiny, I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies, they're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy, you gon' see what's left.
One last hard acceleration before we go. Engine did not spool up that time, alright, that's embarrassing.